South Africa has not been spared the global trend of higher divorce rates caused by the coronavirus lockdown. Now, new data released by the Limpopo Regional Court reveals a backlog of around 11,000 failed marriages that have yet to be processed in that province alone. Limpopo has since announced a 100 days divorce backlog project to, in fact, fast-track the annulments by December of this year. Now, we're not alone. This trend is similar to that of China, where it's become difficult, in fact, to get a divorce because of the high numbers of out-of-love couples. Let's unpack the story now with Brendan McNulty, who is the manager of DIY Legal and joins us now via our video link. He is in Cape Town. Brendan, good morning. Thanks very much for your time this morning. I think it's fair to say you don't really know someone until you live with them, but now under COVID-19, you don't really know someone until you live with them through a pandemic.
Yes, I think there's a lot of additional stresses and strain that the pandemic adds to relationships. So yeah. You have that worry about being sick, you have the worry about family being ill, and then there's all of the other things like what is happening to employment, what is happening to money, etc., etc. And then also, if you don't particularly like someone, you're stuck inside with them time and time again with the boiler pot of kids and school and things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we're being quite tongue-in-cheek about it, but it's an incredibly difficult time for everyone. You know, many people are suffering with mental health difficulties during this time, worries over their jobs. Many people, as we know, have lost loved ones during this period. And if we go back to the main reasons for divorce pre-COVID-19, those were some of the big issues. They were job losses, the loss of a loved one, changing jobs, moving house. These are all exacerbated under the current lockdown.
Correct. It just takes all of the existing things and magnifies them. So it's an additional stressor. And what we're seeing in Limpopo is actually what we saw in the lockdown period was there was a significant increase in people interested in getting divorced, but a lot of people didn't progress with that because of the fear of leaving the house, of the fear of actually processing things, and now that sort of groundswell has been increased and is coming into place.
So we've looked at the numbers coming out of Limpopo. I mean, those are incredibly high numbers. That's just from one province in our country. 11,000, there's a backlog in the regional court of 11,000 failed marriages. That's how we're putting it. Failed marriages that have yet to be processed into divorce. Do you have an idea of what those numbers might look like nationally?
We don't, because we deal specifically with consensual divorces. So it's people who have decided by themselves that they want to get divorced. But we can see in terms of our numbers, it has increased significantly too. So we're seeing about a 40% increase in demand for divorces compared to a similar period last year.
So you're saying as DIY Legal, you've seen, did you say a 40% increase?
Correct, yes.
And that's during the lockdown period?
Well, that's post-lockdown. So actually we saw an pretty much normal year-on-year during the lockdown period, and then post-lockdown there's been this large uptick in people interested.
And I'm sure that you are speaking to the parties that are involved in these divorce applications. What are some of the stories that you're hearing?
So it is, as you say, you're given an opportunity to work on your marriage during the lockdown, or at least you have this opportunity to interact and spend some time with someone, but people are using that time and finding out that they're incompatible. The other side of it is also that the lockdown and coronavirus gives people the perspective that they're taking a long, cold look at themselves and having a look at their life and realizing that life is finite and that sometimes you don't want to spend it with this person. It gives you an opportunity to evaluate where you are. And I think a lot of that is coming through in terms of people's perspective.
Very, very interesting indeed. So you're saying, just from your experience, that it might not just be a case of the marriage has broken down, but the individuals may have rethought their priorities living through a pandemic.
That's some of the feedback that we're getting in terms of that people have a perspective that the lockdown has given them a new outlook, a new way of looking at their life, and as a result of that, they decide that now is not the time to carry on with this relationship that they have.
Can I ask you this? We're seeing some interesting information coming out of China, for example. In China, this is according to some new information that's coming out, just as it pertains to the divorce rate now around the world. But in China, so 74% of these new numbers we're seeing, new numbers of divorces that we're seeing, 74% of these divorces initiated by women. What are we seeing here at home, Brendan? And I know you're speaking very broadly. You can't give us, numbers, but just what are some of the general trends you're seeing?
No. So actually, that is very interesting. So we definitely see more women getting divorced, and it's not just consensual divorces from people who do it online through DIY legal. It's if you look at the South African divorce statistics, women, I think I'm going to get this wrong, but women are definitely more likely to get divorced, and I think it's 56%, but I could be wrong. And what we also see out of the divorce statistics is that the average South African marriage, I think 50% lasts less than 10 years, and 35% lasts less than 5 years. So
wow.
There's a lot of stress and there's a lot of strain that is on marriage at the moment. And COVID-19 can't be aiding that.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan, perhaps just as we wind down our interview, you've obviously seen the ugly side, perhaps, of relationships ending, of marriages ending. What's your advice to couples who might be thinking about going through this, of how to do it in a way that doesn't destroy the life that you've built together, that still maintains the essential sort of good feeling between you? Do it in a good way,
Yes. So what I would say, first and foremost, is think of the children. And I know that is a very glib thing to say, but if you have children, the children are the core of the marriage, and it's extremely traumatic for children.
Yeah.
So think of having a parenting plan, think of mediation. Those are both ways to ensure that the children are taken care of. And the second part of it is it's not a competition. So what you're both looking to do is to start new lives. But if you look at it as bringing your animosity into it, that's going to make the process a whole lot more difficult. Yeah. So if you can be civil, that's a much better way to approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. Try and go through what can be an awful situation. Try and do it in the best way possible. Brendan, thanks very much for your time this morning. Brendan McNulty is the manager of DIY Legal. As we touch on what is a very worrying story, the divorce rates increasing not only here at home but around the world indeed. In fact, some of the statistics Brendan just gave us now, 50% of marriages last less than 10 years, 35% last less than 5 years. Just some interesting perspective there.